Hey guys, welcome back to episode 8 of Omnifactory, and I am out of tier 2 circuits. Let's resolve that by making 12 stacks of the tier 1. If we just enable an input on this conduit, here we go. And finally, the last circuit. Check this out. This should last us quite a long time. I'm going to use probably half of these and make tier 2 circuits. While that was crafting as well, I also upgraded our blast furnace for stainless steel, so this is running at HV now. Just replaced the energy input hatch from MV to HV. So now this significantly increases the speed of this blast furnace, which is going to be nice because we need a lot of stainless steel. One of the first quests in the mid-game section here is the oil drilling rig. I think I'd like to set this up today. This requires HV power, as mentioned here. And yeah, now that we have more power coming out of our dynamos, we have our stainless steel being produced, so we can make all the HV components. I think we should get this oil drilling rig set up. Using the oil that comes out of the rig, we can distill it in a distillation tower, and this will give us several different liquids. The one we're after though is this sulfuric naphtha. This will then combine with hydrogen, and this will give us hydrogen sulfide and regular naphtha, which we also want to process. And then this eventually will become epoxy resin once we combine it with epichlorohydrin and nitrogen dioxide. The epoxy resin we'll then use for epoxide sheets, and this is what we use for the next tier of epoxy boards, which is used in the fourth and final tier 2 circuits. So these are going to be really cheap once we get this epoxy up and running. And once we get this started, I think we'll then dive into full 82 automation. So this oil drilling rig is going to require a few things. First of all, it does require the tier 3 circuits, and it's mostly just steel. It's a lot of steel rods, steel plates, which we have a lot of by now. I've just been batch crafting it like hundreds at a time, so I'm up to like 2,000 steel already. I might need to get some more steel rods. Actually, I should get those going. But then yeah, I'm thinking about setting up or expanding our platform this way a bit, and maybe putting the oil drilling rig on this side. And then we'll have our HV machines along this row here. I just realised this is also going to require a stone burnt for the screen. This stone burnt has to be made in a resonator, which requires grid power. This is Extra Utility's unique form of energy, which we don't have yet. There's a couple of different ways of getting GP. The easiest of which is probably the lava mill or the water mill, which don't look too bad. They're just some MV pumps. So I think I'll make some of these. First we have to do at least 4 pieces manually, so we need a resonator and a manual mill. Alright, we're making gears. All of this manual moving things around is starting to get tiring. I really need to invest in 82 things. Alright, so with the manual mill, we put the polished stone in the resonator, and then we just have to click this until it gets to 15 GP in order to make 1. And we need 4 to make our first water mill, and then this becomes automatic process. Alright, there's our first 4 pieces of stone burnt. We'll make these into a water mill. Alright, there's our first water mill. We need obviously water, and it has to be flowing water as well. So I don't know where a good place to set this up is. It doesn't need to be connected to any wires or anything, so we can really put it anywhere. So I found myself out of bronze rotors, and I'm pretty sure this recipe is new, the fact that you can do rotors in the fluid solidifier, which is so nice. Making rotors the other way is such a pain. You need screws, rings, and plates to make it manually. And for this you need soldering alloy in the assembler. This just makes it super easy. You just melt some bronze, put it into a rotor mold, and we get rotors. So yeah. So here's our last 2 water mills that I'm going to build. I did change this. I think I had these 2 switched. So now all of these are touching flowing water on all sides. I'll put one on the other side as well. Here, with water. So now we're generating 66 grid power with a 2% efficiency loss because we're only using water mills. I think that goes away if you change up how you produce your GP. But this is all we need, at least for now. And we don't have to use this manual mill anymore. And that allows us to get the screen. And after cutting some steel plates, making the steel frames and solid steel machine casings, we have our oil drilling machine block. So this is quite a large multi-block structure. And it does take quite a lot of frames, casings, gearboxes. Yeah, the HV energy input hatch. A couple of fluid input and outputs. And we're also going to need to fuel it. But first I'll probably craft up all these components first. We'll build it and then we'll look at fueling and the I/O for this machine. So I was able to craft up all the components that the quest asked for. And I think we're just going to stick it in this little square here. And then I've extended the power line up here. I have some 16x vibrant alloy cable, which is probably overkill actually. I probably should have went for the 4x. So I'll probably end up switching that out and use this for the main line over there. But for now we'll just power it with this since we don't have any other HP machines. So yeah, I'm going to build out this multi-block and then I'll come back after that. Alright, and after some time I've built our oil drilling rig. This is currently running at EV tier actually. I ended up putting 2 HV energy input buses on there. So we have the HVCEF, and then this is powering the vibrant alloy cable. And in order for this to run, it needs, well, 2 inputs. First of which is an item, which is this pipe from Inspirations. This is shapeless crafted from the small steel pipe, which we make in an extruder. And that's why I have here, this block here is an extruder. So we have an interface providing steel. This goes into the extruder, makes this small steel pipes. And then this gets put into a crafter, which makes it into Inspirations pipes. And then there's an input hatch below this steel frame, and that inputs into the oil drilling rig. The other thing it needs is drilling fluid. This drilling fluid is made by lubricant, water, and stone dust. And it gives you 5,000 at a time. So I just batch crafted a whole steel drum of this, and so there's only a 1% chance of consuming 10 millibuckets of drilling fluid. So this, I mean, we really don't need much more than this. This is going to last like basically forever. And then on the output side, we have a quantum tank. This holds a tremendous amount of oil. Yeah, we're already at 750 odd buckets of oil. I have a fluid storage bus on there as well, by the way. So we can see that here. So now we have to actually do something with the oil. This distillation tower is quite expensive. It does take quite a lot of stainless steel. I'm not sure how much we have right now. Our ore processing's been doing quite well. I've put like a bunch of ores through there. We're up to 900. Yeah, that's way enough to make this tower. Yeah, we can see our crafter here is still full. So there's still lots and lots to process. But let's just make this distillation tower at the moment. So let's see how much we have right now. Okay, we're missing a few things. Large stainless steel pipes. I'll make some of those. And we need HV electric pumps as well. Alright, what do these HV pumps take? Steel instead of bronze for the components. Alright, let's make up a batch of steel rotors then. And I'm getting quite low on steel. Well, not low, but it's not infinite, and I don't have it passived yet, so I should probably invest in doing that. Okay, I made up some steel rings and steel screws. Let's just make a whole bunch of steel rotors for now. That should be enough. And there's some more copper wire we needed. Okay, so HV pumps. Oh, we're still missing something. What is it now? Electric motors. Oh, these take 4x copper wire instead of just 2x. Alright, well, I'm glad I made all that copper wire. I was originally making that for the MV pumps, but it looks like this takes even more copper wire. 16 electric motors, that should do for now at least. And then we'll make 2 pumps. And there's our distillation tower. And what else does this take? We need 20 stainless steel casings. Actually, it's going to be 34. This quest originally wanted us to make the distillation tower for our ethanol, but we're doing that with the single block machine over there. There's 36. We'll need some input and output. Let's see, we'll need 4 outputs, 1 input. There's an input and 4 fluid outputs. The quest wants an output bus as well. I don't think we're going to need that, since there's no item output on this, it's just fluids. But we'll make it for the quest anyway. And yeah, this recipe is MV, but I think I'll do it at HV. So yeah, let's start setting up our HV line here. So I got a energy input hatch. I'll need a CEF as well. Okay, so we'll start laying down our HV cable here. I just made a bunch of this vibrant alloy. We actually have quite a lot of this now. The blast furnaces have been running quite a few hours. So yeah, let's think about where we want to put this. I think I want it in the center of one of these squares, and it is a 3x3, so yeah, I think here's fine. Oh, and here comes the rain. Typical. So it's energy input in the back, and then stainless steel all the way around. And we'll need, is that the input hatch there? Alright, for some reason it didn't form there, but breaking and replacing one of the blocks, I guess force updated it. So yeah, we have the 4 output hatches on the sides here, the controller in the middle, the output bus on the left, although this won't be used. I wonder if we can actually swap this out and reclaim our output bus. Oh yeah, we can. Okay, cool. And then we have fluid input needs to go in the bottom middle, which is a bit annoying, but it does. That is a requirement. Sometimes you can get away with switching the placements of the hatches about, but this one I think is required there. And then energy in the back. So now we have to get the oil from there into our distillation tower. I think the easiest way is just to use applied energistics. So we'll use a fluid interface. So we can put a fluid interface in the bottom, connect it with some glass cable, and configure it with an oil bucket. And this will place oil inside the input hatch. So now we have 16 millibuckets of oil in there, or 16 buckets. And oh yeah, it's already running, nice. So these outputs will now fill up. And it said something in the quest about voiding items. I don't think it's voided if... I think it just stops when these fill up. Like if there's nowhere for this to go, it will void the outputs. But I think since this is a variable height, like if you were to only have it 3 tall, it would void the sulfuric naphtha and the sulfuric gas, which is not what we want. But we have the 4 outputs, so it gives us all 4 fluids. Alright, so now we need to process the outputs, and these are all in sulfuric form. Each one of these outputs are in sulfuric form, so we have to chemical react them with hydrogen. And there's no other use for the sulfuric forms, so we're just putting them straight into the chemical reactors. So we also need hydrogen for this process. We are making hydrogen already from this system here. This sulfuric acid produces a hydrogen byproduct, which we have in this tank here. So I've put a fluid storage bus on there. I just need to hook it up, and then we'll put an interface on the other side and put that into our chemical reactors. So we have to run our ME conduit along this line here as well. We can put our fluid interface here, filter it for hydrogen. I'm not sure why this hydrogen isn't going in here. Hold on, let's check the fluid interface just to see if we are getting... Okay, it doesn't recognize that we have hydrogen in here. Well, that it would help if I actually plugged it in. So now we should be getting hydrogen. Yes, nice. So now we have to get those into each one of these chemical reactors. We use this fluid conduit and we'll filter each one. I guess we'll use the blue channel since it's blue. So we'll filter on blue and extract on blue, round robin. I don't want to set that yet because I want it to be round robin once I put all the filters in. Right, so extract, these should all get hydrogen in there. Nice, so we're now producing all the byproducts in non-sulfuric form. We do get hydrogen sulfide, and I think this can be electrolyzed back into more hydrogen and we can recycle the process here. So I think I'll put a electrolyzer on this line as well, and then we'll just refilter the hydrogen, and we'll use that one as a lower priority so that it uses this one first. So let's get an electrolyzer. There's a HV electrolyzer. I think that's the first one we've made. This also gives us sulfur dust as well. We are getting sulfur already through DML, so that's not really important, but we do need to deal with the byproduct. I guess we could put the electrolyzers below this, insert with filters on hydrogen sulfide. So I'll put a filter in there. Alright, so then we have the extract set on this hydrogen. It's all going back into these chemical reactors. It should have round robined. I don't know why it didn't. Or maybe we just didn't have enough hydrogen yet and each one consumes different amounts. Okay, let's deal with the fluids first and then we'll tackle that sulfur. So we have naphtha, refinery gas, light fuel, heavy fuel. And I think I'm going to store those in quantum tanks, and we'll use these later on, these fuels and refinery gases later on, but the naphtha is what we're interested in. Alright, so now we have a place for the fluid outputs. We're just quantum tanking the refinery gas, the light fuel and the heavy fuel, and the naphtha is just in a steel drum because we're going to straight process that. So at this point in the episode I had more or less the rest of it recorded, setting this up, which is the next, or what I thought was the next steps for epichlorohydrin. Turns out though, doing it this way is super inefficient, so we're going to switch to something else. So let me explain what I was doing and what we're doing now. So at the start of the episode I mentioned we're going to make epoxy resin using this recipe here, the nitrogen dioxide, naphtha and epichlorohydrin. I've now learned that this is really inefficient, and we're going to use the naphtha for something else instead. Instead of using this recipe here, we're going to use the top one. So sodium hydroxide we already produce. Bisphenol A we'll tackle at a later stage because that is a couple more steps. And we still have to make epichlorohydrin, but the way we're going to do it is we're going to use allyl chloride. I was planning on doing glycerol before, which is why I set up the canola farm and things like that, but we're no longer going to do this method. We're going to pick this allyl chloride, hypochlorous acid and sodium hydroxide dust. So let's first tackle this allyl chloride. This requires propene and chlorine. Propene we're going to get from building a second distillation tower, and we're going to use the naphtha from that, steam crack it, and distill it into all of these fluids. This gives us the propene, and then we mix that with the chlorine, and that'll give us our allyl chloride. There's a lot more steps to this, but it's way more efficient, and I'd rather make mistakes and learn and change them rather than just keep going down the path I'm on and realise I have to change it later anyway. So it's going to be a slight detour. I'll probably end up taking this down since the HV machines are quite expensive at this point. All the light and heavy fuel is going to be mixed into diesel, however we're going to end up with a slight excess of heavy fuel. The excess heavy fuel is going to be steam cracked and then sent into the distillation tower, the second one, which produces all the same byproducts. And I think we're going to do this at MV since I don't have any more circuits left. Alright, so I've taken the time here and partially just tried to get my head around this process. So I think I have the first part of it figured out here. So what we have here is a mixer mixing heavy fuel and light fuel. There's going to be an excess of heavy fuel, so the excess of heavy fuel is going to be steam cracked here. Once this buffer fills up, it'll fill this, be steam cracked, and also the naphtha that we're getting from this is also being steam cracked. And then that's going to go into the second massive distillation tower. Yeah, so it's 11 tall, or well 12 tall, but 11 output hatches. And actually I'm missing the top layer, I think it needs one layer after. Yeah, 6 more casings and they're now placed. It looks like it did form. I'm running this one at HV again. Okay, I was just missing a cable back here, so now it should be running. Yes, nice. I made these machines at MV, but I don't know if we'll be able to keep up. And I just made them at NV since I can't really afford the HV circuits yet. So we have the opportunity to upgrade these if it becomes necessary. This distillation tower is now running. We're getting more heavy fuel, more light fuel, which will be recycled into these tanks here. We get toluene, benzene, butene, butadiene, propane, propene, which is what we're after for this process, ethane, methane, and oh, that's the top layer. So yeah, all 11 of those fluids we have to now deal with, and I think there's an item output there as well. Yeah, we get carbon dust from this. It's just another progress update after some time. So I've set up steam cracking here for various fluids. These two on the top we get from this distillation tower. They get steam cracked and then go back in and recycled. So they are steam cracked propane and butene. These basically just get recycled into this tower and they give various outputs. They don't give them all, but they give us more of the useful things. And then I've set up fluid tanks for now. Some of these will back up because we don't have any processing for them. But let's just tackle the ones that we actually need right now, which is propene. So propene we have to combine with chlorine to create the allyl chloride that we need. So I'm going to put a fluid storage bus here for propene, and we'll set up some NV machines over there to process this. Alright, so I've set up a chemical reactor here that's being fed with propene and chlorine. Yeah, we still don't have enough chlorine production, but yeah, we can deal with that at a later stage. Alright, and after some troubleshooting and playing around with this system, I think I have it mostly set up here. So I'll briefly go over it. I've changed some things and it's taken me quite a while, to be honest. But yeah, here we have propene, chlorine, making allyl chloride. That goes in here and gets combined with hypochlorous acid. The hypochlorous acid comes from this chemical reactor, which is made from the mercury, water and chlorine. This needs 10 buckets, which is why it hasn't made any yet. The mercury is coming from electrolysis of redstone. And then the two outputs from this are going into these two drums here for storage. So yeah, that is now us making epichlorohydrin. Alright, so as you can see, this system has now expanded a fair bit. I did record this setup, but I ended up changing things so often and iterating on things. I was basically just repeating myself the whole time. So I'll basically just show you what we have here. We're already making epoxy resin here. So this is made with bisphenol A and sodium hydroxide. And this is the end product, what we were after for the epoxy boards. So after we make the epichlorohydrin, over this side is the next stages. So it's to make bisphenol A. So this macerator macerates bones, and then we centrifuge bones for calcium. The calcium is then used with oxygen and acetic acid to make dissolved calcium acetate, which is then distilled into acetone and combined with hydrochloric acid and phenol, and this gives us our bisphenol A. The bisphenol A is then combined in this chemical reactor to make the epoxy resin, and this also gives us salt water which can be electrolyzed for more chlorine, so that helps our chlorine production quite a bit. This chemical reactor here is turning the excess methane from the top of that distillation tower back into hydrogen, which is something we're also quite short on. I've also added another loop fabricator over here for bones from the skeleton DML to make the calcium. It's set quite low, it's only on 300. But yeah, this just uses a skeleton matter every so often and gives us calcium for this process. There's one thing I'm not really so sure about, and I think I'm going to end up changing, and it is this production of phenol. So the pyrolysis oven I moved over here, that was at the LV machines over there. This is now running MV, and the recipe I'm running this is just straight coal. It's in here. Yeah, coal, and if we run this through the pyrolysis oven, we get coke and phenol directly, but this does use a fair amount of coal. It uses 16 every 30 seconds, and yeah, this kind of eats coal and it's quite inefficient. There is other ways of getting phenol as well though. I mean, we could either set up cumene, and this gives us also acetone, or we could switch the pyrolysis oven to using wood, and this will give us charcoal byproducts, and then we can distill that into wood tar, and then distill the wood tar again into phenol. But I'm not sure if that'll be quick enough. I might have to do that at HV or something like that, I'm not sure. That's something I'll have to look at the numbers for, but yeah, apart from that, I don't think much else has changed since the last time I played. I added one more alloy smelter to this just to alleviate the bottleneck for polymer clay, and we're now positive again in that. I've basically just been throwing machines at this to try and counteract the bottlenecks, and it's gotten a bit spaghetti, but this will all be rebuilt at probably IV tier. So I'm not really worried about it. This will be torn down eventually. And even some of these processes will probably end up rebuilt as well. I'm not a huge fan of the way they turned out, but they work, and they're going to stay for now. So yeah, I think that's going to be just about it for this time. This took me a lot longer than I expected, and I decided just to go ahead and finish it. This has been rebuilt and modified so many times in the last day that I'm going to leave it as is for now. We'll have to optimize it a bit further, but yeah, the next steps is going to be to start 82 auto crafting, and I think that should have been probably done before I set this up, but I was already halfway. Decided just to finish it, and so yeah, next time we will start 82 auto crafting. We'll start on demand crafting, so we'll set up some CPUs, and we'll probably start parallel processing. So we'll have like an array of compressors, an array of wire mills, and then we'll be able to request things from our 82 system. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's about time that I got that set up, to be honest. But yeah, if you have any feedback or changes I could be making to this, let me know. And I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.